Welcome to the Poisoner's Almanac. I am your co-host, Adam.
And I'm Rebecca.
What does today's episode cover, my dear?
We are talking about arsenic.
Ooh.
Yes. And we're going to be discussing why it is also called inheritance powder. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
So most people know arsenic. I mean, it's in a lot of literature. It's in, there's a lot of stuff about arsenic out there. And arsenic was actually really used in a lot of stuff back in the day. So I'm gonna
Like so many other things.
Yeah. More poisons that we're gonna be talking about. You're gonna be seeing that they were actually used quite a lot. In
like cocaine and Coca-Cola,
things.
which I still haven't gotten over, but whatever.
Or lead and. I mean, anyway. Speaking of lead, they've actually, I don't know if you've heard of the whole Stanley Cup thing where they're like, oh, we found
yes,
lead.
I have.
Now, Stanley has come out and said, like, okay, well, if you get lead poisoning, it's kind of your fault, though, because you'd have to, like, scratch pretty hard to get the lead. I don't know. I just briefly looked it over. Looked it over.
I like that vibe.
So.
Our response is, don't be dumb, okay?
Of course.
Stop biting the bottom of the cup, you mouth breather.
I don't know much about Stanley's. I can't really afford a $45 cup, so.
And who can? Apparently, everyone.
Well, apparently when they're pink, they're really popular.
Oh, man.
Like, people storm Target trying to get them.
This is living.
Anyway.
What's America like? Oh, we kill people for cups.
That's the first of many rabbit trails we'll probably go on today.
Mm-hmm.
But,
we digress.
Yeah. Speaking of rabbits, it's almost Easter. I'm not a big fan of Easter.
You are not.
There's pastels, there's people.
There's people.
Everywhere. Eggs.
Not to mention the people.
I'm not really that big a fan of eggs myself.
Also
Chocolate
people.
Or otherwise. Anyway, back to the subject at hand, arsenic. Arsenic is, you'll find arsenic in your periodic table of elements. So it is a natural, see, there you go. Not everything natural is good for you. Arsenic's natural, not good for you. Now, people used to think it was, though. So,
for sure.
It is a gray metallic
People still
element.
think that now.
It's found in the Earth's crust. It's out there. It's also found in trace amounts within the human body, very trace amounts. But when it's used as a poison, it is lethal. And it's not an easy way to go, not a fun way to go.
Okay.
It has most commonly appeared as white arsenic or arsenic trioxide. And when ingested, it binds to the enzymes of cells. It shuts down their energy production, basically starves the cells of protein.
Hold on. Are you telling me that arsenic throws hands with the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well.
I mean, 15-year-old me should have been warned.
Yeah, nice little uppercut to the mitochondria.
Not the mitochondrial uppercut.
It starves cells of protein, prevents them from repairing themselves. You can think of it, I wrote this in my notes, but you've been reading the Agatar series.
Oh, yeah.
So,
because I'm cool.
The arrows that they shoot Rhys down with, and you learn a little bit about this substance later. Febane.
Yes.
I feel like if cells were Fey, arsenic is like Febane. It basically stops them from healing.
A great parallel.
Stops them from, using their...
Hello, Feyre, darling.
So the mitochondria is Fey.
Okay.
And arsenic is Febane.
Got it.
Boom.
My flow chart is complete thus far.
Now, as a gas, arsenic destroys red blood cells. Just destroys them.
As a gas?
Yeah, if you breathe it in. If you're breathing it in, it's gonna, it goes through like your lungs through the gas exchange and just.
Oh my God.
Goes off.
So what's the typical medium for poisoning somebody with arsenic intentionally?
Most of the time, it's going to be like in this powder form, like white arsenic.
It's in a solution or something.
Yeah, but they've used arsenic in pesticides too, which they could use it as a gas.
Okay.
Too. Cyanide's been used the same way. We'll go over cyanide in the future, but.
Of course we will.
Another one of my favorites. Not because I'd like to use it. It's just historically very interesting stuff.
We always have to qualify.
Disclaimer.
Your Honor, not because we want it to harm anyone.
No. Now, arsenic and cyanide are very different, though, because arsenic, it usually takes a little longer to kill you than cyanide would. So there's a main difference right there. Big difference, okay?
Okay.
Also, we're talking about a heavy metal right now.
I love heavy metal.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Now,
I'm 12.
now arsenic, we also, I know we discussed, what did we do last time? Aqua Tofana.
Aquafina up on you.
Oh my God.
Is what I call it.
They, in Aqua Tofana, it said that arsenic was a ingredient in that. So keep that in mind. But
okay. Okay.
yes. So arsenic is very easy to hide in food or drink. Its effects were often mistaken for symptoms of natural diseases or illnesses like gastroenteritis, anything that involved the GI system.
It's so funny.
Especially back in that day.
People were you could just poison someone anytime you fancied. It just...
Well, yeah.
Because you could pass it off as, well, he's got the consumption.
Well, that was tuberculosis.
Right. What's the difference? Nobody knows.
Yeah, the lungs.
He's got the plague.
The lungs. And tuberculosis is still a very big deal today.
Matter of fact, yes, that's true.
A lot of people don't realize that. Look, I follow John Green. He talks about it.
He does.
And it does need more press. We need to talk about it more.
Protect
It's
John
a problem.
Green.
People die way too often from tuberculosis.
John Green is fixated on tuberculosis.
But you know what? Somebody needs to be, because it needs to stop.
Well,
it needs to stop.
We'll email the CDC.
And good luck. I say that as a nurse. And back then you had to remember too, like cholera was a big deal. You had typhoid. You had the sanitation was not exactly great back in these times. We're talking
they were barely paving roads.
And we're talking like up into like later Victorian times. Even after that, I mean, we had a lot of stuff. I mean, the EPA didn't come about until what, the 70s, like with laws
Nixon.
with laws about our waterways and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't even like a federal government thing.
We've had pollution around for a long time, but there's also lots of just gross stuff going on.
Yeah, well, what I always think of is like for, I don't know, several hundred years, the streets of a particular village or town or even cities, they were not paved. There was no gutter. People were dumping their refuse in the street.
Or in the river. Was it the River Thames?
The River
Thames.
When
they had like the Great Stench, because it was basically just sewage at that point, and they had to do a lot of cleaning.
And so where everyone is walking every day is a trash dump.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
And it's just mud and muck and human results.
Yes.
It's disgusting.
So you have all of that happening.
Yeah.
And you also have arsenic in everything. So it's very easy to get. Very easy to get. You could just go and get arsenic and say, I want to kill some rats. And they just give you a big old thing of arsenic. Right. Okay. But let's get to how it does the body. So if you have gradual or chronic poisoning, like you're basically being dosed it like every so often, kind of like how in Aqua Tofana it was usually dosed over like a 3-day period. They usually died to like 3 days.
So it'd be inconspicuous.
Yes, gradual, but I mean it was pretty quick turnaround, I guess. But this would present as itching, loss of appetite. Your mouth or throat would be burning. You've got some nausea, diarrhea, facial swelling. Because of the like accumulation of fluids happening. You've got jaundice going on because now it's
your liver's dying.
Yeah, your liver is trying to process all this stuff. You end up with scaly patches on your hands and feet. Probably part of that is from the liver too, not being able to get rid of the poisons.
Oh, wow.
Now, acute poisoning, meaning you're just given one big old dose, you're going to end up with vomiting, diarrhea, numbness in your feet, probably your hands too, stomach pains, muscle cramps, and you'll see a lot of, like the cases I go over, a lot of the first signs are stomach cramps, pain in the stomach and things like that. Intense thirst, because you've got severe dehydration going on, urine suppression, coma, death. After the fact, the hands and feet might look blue because of cyanosis, like you're not getting enough oxygen, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So, but some of these things also look like that when you have gastroenteritis. You got the stomach cramps, you got diarrhea, you got vomiting. So, any kind of gastro illness.
Plague. He's got the plague, sir.
So, it's hard to tell back then if you didn't have a test. And I'll go over a few of the tests that were created around the time that some of these cases were happening too, because we're going to go over a few cases of the use of arsenic and
give the people what they want.
Murder. Now, arsenic was everywhere. So for a long time, even as far back as the Romans and further back, people were using it in pesticides, medicines, and, well, poisons. So between the 1700s and the 1920s, arsenic could be found in cosmetics like Fowler's solution.
I'm sorry, did you say the 1700s to the 1920s?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
That's a 220-year period, basically.
Oh, yeah. Well,
amazing.
you know.
Okay.
Arsenic was found in cosmetics like Fowler's solution, which was like it helped, you put it on, it helped lighten the skin. There's always been this weird obsession with, I want my skin whiter.
Yeah,
So,
that was the Victorian thing
Yeah.
with... They wanted to look as if they were ill.
Yeah,
like that was
like
chic.
they had TB, you know, like they
That's
had tuberculosis.
unhinged.
It became like
Okay.
a thing, yeah.
All right.
Facial soaps, complexion wafers. Literally, you would eat these wafers that were made with arsenic and
Oh, my God.
chomp on them. Yeah. Lotions, makeup, all kinds of stuff. Okay.
Okay.
It was also in dyes and paints, and it could be found in things like wreaths or hats, cardboard boxes, greeting cards, labels, candles, rubber balls, so toys, artificial plants, carpets, jewelry. So it was everywhere. Okay. You couldn't get away from
I
this
thought
stuff.
you were going to say history books, voting machines. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Now, it's also commonly known, I think a lot of people have heard the whole like the wallpaper thing. There's like, they used to have this
Yeah,
really pretty
I have heard of
green
that.
wallpaper. And it was
But it
made
was from
with,
arsenic.
It's from arsenic. It made a really,
Gross.
it made a really nice green color. It really did. But, you know,
And then you turned the same color.
yeah, I mean, you know, guess if you like green.
Tell them I love my wallpaper.
It really wasn't until the 1980s that it was banned in the U.S. as a pesticide.
That's so intense. I was
Yes.
born in the 80s.
Same. But yeah, it was, it was around.
Man, okay.
Yeah. So
I'm okay. Let's keep going.
now there is an antidote / treatment these days. It wasn't really made until like around World War II in 1940-ish. And it was mainly made because there was this chemical weapon being used called lewisite.
Okay.
And it was basically this chemical weapon. And some say it's actually been used as recently as 2023 in Ukraine.
Oh, great.
I don't know if we have any like actual proof of that or not, but some people say that it was used
That's like hearsay.
when it was being bombed too.
Amazing.
Which I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
Would any of us? No.
And it's but the treatment would be dimercaprol. I cannot say this. Dimercaprol.
The cumbercapol.
or-
That's how you say it.
Or a British anti-lewisite.
Okay.
Okay.
Very elegant.
And the reason why, this is used for acute poisoning by arsenic, it could also be used for mercury, gold, and lead poisoning. It's a chelating agent, so it like binds to the heavy metals, and then it goes through your kidneys to get out. So it binds to it, and then it just kind of drags it out of your body.
My goodness. That's clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it doesn't always work for other heavy metals. I've heard, sometimes not for things like thallium. Another poison we'll go over in the future. But
Just real quick. You're really good looking.
oh,
I
okay.
just want to get that on tape.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, there was stomach pumping, so that's
well,
fun.
you could try that. What we're going to do is we're going to hang you from your ankles for a couple hours, son, and see if it falls out.
If we get it on time. If we get it in time, maybe. We don't know.
That's right.
So, but I also read
The
that
doctor takes his share, don't he?
I also read that if you're allergic to peanuts, then dimercaprol is not for you because it can it's used like they use it with like peanut oil to like do something with it, like in order to mix it or whatever. I don't know. You'd think they would have found a better way to do it by now, but here we are. So yeah, if you're allergic to peanuts, I'm sorry.
The peanut allergy kids get shafted again.
I'm serious.
Tell you what.
So we're gonna go over a few cases.
Okay.
And I know I rushed through that first part because there are so many cases.
Yeah, it's a
of
popular
arsenic
poison, right?
poisoning.
Okay.
And I'm trying to touch on the most
Most prominent ones.
prominent.
Or interesting, I should say.
Yeah, I mean,
I trust your judgment so much to collate this information and to bring us the best.
I'm going to do my best.
I really do.
I'm going to do my
Okay.
best. Okay, the first person I want to talk about is Mary Blandy.
Okay.
And there's actually quite a few Marys and Maries with this whole arsenic business in the notes that I took. So
What an
maybe it was just
unfortunate
it could have been a
coincidence.
common name. It's probably just a common name.
Certainly.
So this was her story takes place in the 1740s. Her father, his name was Francis. He was a successful lawyer, and he wanted to find Mary a husband. I mean,
all I hear is Francis from that TikTok guy. Sorry.
Close his window.
Francis.
But he wanted to find Mary a husband, as you would back in those
So you
days.
don't starve.
Because she was in her 20s, she's getting old.
She's a spinster. I'm 27 years old.
Yep. So
I'm already a burden to my parents.
Apparently, he thought she was getting old and he needed to marry her off, as one does.
As one does.
So he literally advertised her in the local newspaper.
Rebecca, I wasn't ready for that. No wonder she started killing people. And he was charged as an accessory to murder.
Well, there's more. He literally advertised her and offered a dowry of 10,000 pounds, which would be close to $2 million today.
Well, I accept.
And a lot of men answered the ad, of course, but the only one considered promising was this guy named William Henry Cranston.
He gonna die?
So, of course...
I'm so into this already.
So they got engaged. Oh, it gets better.
Wanted.
It gets better.
Man to marry my daughter.
But there's a problem.
I'll give you $2 million.
There's a problem I'm going to go over in a second. He's an army captain, and he's the son of a Scottish noble. So they're like, okay, well, that's good enough for us. So
Not bad.
he was also very short, very mean-faced, and 12 years older than her. And apparently he had been quite scarred by smallpox. It was a big thing back then, too. Smallpox was going around, and it left scars.
1740s, right?
Yeah, we're talking,
Yeah, these are the dark
And
ages.
Mary herself had smallpox, and she had been quite scarred by it as well. It was pretty common. Okay.
Wow.
But yeah, so and he was also already married. So
I love the way you brought that in.
so
You brought that in like you forgot.
well,
Like you honestly forgot. Oh, also he was married.
he also swore, but he swore that his marriage wasn't legal. He swore it. It was. It kind of was. He was saying that, oh no, it's just my mistress who I've had a kid with. Like that's any better. But he was actually married. He was married. Okay. He just wanted that money. So Francis, Mary's father, was pretty mad about it, and he canceled their engagement because he didn't want any kind of like scandal.
No, he don't want no tea, man.
Right. But Mary kept seeing him because she somehow liked this guy. In secret.
To everyone's shock.
Yeah, she starts seeing him in secret, and they start sharing letters and all this stuff.
Not the letters.
Well, around
Gonna have to
1750.
change the rating of this podcast.
Yeah, around 1750-ish, Cranston tells her that he knows this woman who makes potions, and that she could make forgiveness or friendship potions that she could give to her father so that he would like him again and like be okay with them marrying. Okay.
This is a real conversation.
This is a real conversation.
Because, and hear me out, it
It's the
sounds like Harry
1750s.
Potter.
It's 1750, okay?
Okay, fair enough.
Did he go to Hogwarts? We don't know.
We don't know.
Okay.
Cannot confirm.
I should say she, because she's the one making the potions.
We'll make
This
that
lady
the
is.
poll on the podcast page on Spotify.
Right.
Do you believe in magic?
Turn to page 394.
Okay.
So within the next year, he sends her this forgiveness powder
Oh my God.
disguised as pebble polish. Now, pebble polish is something they used to clean pebbles, and that was used for like jewelry and stuff. So he just disguised it. Of course, if it's something like benign, why would you have to disguise it? But anyway, yeah. So
That's a great point.
Mary starts.
Also, I polish pebbles all the time. I don't know about
God.
you guys.
I do not. Mary starts adding this powder of forgiveness to her father's food, and he starts getting sick. Now, she blames his symptoms on these kidney stones that he had recently complained of.
See? It's
But-
so easy.
But the servants
Man.
were pretty suspicious. I mean, the man's teeth start falling out. And I'm pretty sure that's not a symptom of kidney stones. But yeah, she just kept on dosing him even after that. And the servants are getting suspicious. Her father does die, and his doctor also suspects poison now because as much as he tried to do to keep him alive, and don't get me wrong, there wasn't a whole lot back then that doctors did.
I mean, they're the only ones that could form suspicions anyway.
Yeah.
They're running to and fro
What can you
from
do?
one aristocrat's house to another,
So So with all the suspicion, Mary tries burning the letters between her and Cranston, and she tries to burn the rest of that so-called forgiveness powder that he'd sent. But she was interrupted by a servant who set some of the powder aside because, everybody's suspicious now. The doctor tests it and finds out that, sure enough, it's arsenic. And she was arrested and charged with, killing her father.
Wow. Okay.
She insists, though, that she's just an innocent victim in Cranston's plan, that she really thought that this was a potion that would help her father be forgiving,
But in what world do you have somebody eat something and they're like, I forgive you? That's so stupid. That just makes me giggle.
They're also eating arsenic wafers.
It sounds like... of course they are, but it just sounds like some papaw stuff from the deep south. They're like, feed that dog gunpowder, he'll guard the back door all night.
Okay, but are there? During COVID, people were totally taking.
Yeah, we figured out
all kinds of stuff.
We figured out so much about ourselves.
So I'm not too shocked. So now Cranston had fled to France. He just completely was like, bye. See ya. And he ends up dying a year later anyway in 1952.
Of natural causes?
Not 1952. Oh my God. 1752. 1752.
He took the eternal life potion.
My bad. So Mary was eventually found guilty and she was hanged. So
there's that.
Now, ironically, it was later discovered that her father, the one who had put her in the newspaper and was like, hey, 10,000 pounds over here. Yeah, he only had less than 4,000 pounds to his name.
This is a season finale.
It wouldn't have been, the guy would have been disappointed anyway.
I'm amazed.
Cranston. So
I just love how it all starts off with him just
yeah, and that's the story
of the newspaper.
That's the story of Mary Blandy.
Well, she went down in flames, baby. Let's go.
Now I want to talk about Marie Lafarge.
Lafarge.
Now this is a pretty popular story because I want to say this is around the time the Marsh test was made by James Marsh, and
Remind me what that is.
The Marsh test was created by James Marsh. He was a British chemist, and it basically looked for arsenic, and it was a very reliable way of testing for arsenic.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that's when
be on the test.
That showed up right around the time of her trial. But let's get into who she was.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So Marie Lafarge was actually born into a really good, respectable family. She had a very modest fortune, and she was really well educated. Her father, however, he was killed in a hunting accident when she was 12, and her mother remarried, but then she also died when Marie was 18.
Oh, wow.
So she's orphaned now, and she's 18, but still is practically a kid. When you grow up, you realize 18 is pretty much a kid.
Yeah.
Marie was sent to live with her aunt, Madame Garat. I'm thinking that's how you say her name. I don't like her anyway.
Okay. So we don't care how we say her name.
Her aunt was basically like, I don't like this spoiled kid, and she's too dreamy. She's been given way too much in her life. So she just wanted to marry her off as quick as possible.
Did she put an ad in the paper?
No, but because it wasn't happening soon enough for her liking, she was meeting people and nothing was going, there was no romance happening. Mm-hmm. She decided to consult a matrimonial agent without telling her.
I'm having so much fun. Please continue.
Yeah. Okay. Apparently that's a thing. So the agent found this man named Charles Pouch Lafarge, an awkward, poorly mannered 28-year-old who was presented as the proprietor of an iron foundry. Now, this was the time of railroads and stuff coming along. So that sounded like, wow, yeah, he's got to be making some money, right?
He was presented as that?
Yes.
I'm guessing he's not actually that.
Well, I'll get to it.
Okay.
The agent also told them that he lived in a chateau in central France. So Marie was hesitant, but eventually she agreed to marry him. And 3 days after they got married, they arrived at his quote-unquote chateau. And it was actually pretty horrible. It was dilapidated. It had no modern conveniences. It was also really dirty. And there was an iron foundry. It was all smoky and gross. And it was also, the place was overrun with rats.
Okay.
Okay. Also, her mother-in-law was not too fond of her. It was pretty miserable. And I think the night like that they returned home, like she even like wrote her husband, her new husband, a letter and was like, "Please let me go." So he
Wow.
encouraged her to stay, and stay she did. I mean, what could you do as a woman back then?
Nothing.
Murder.
You can.
I guess.
Yeah, you can poison.
Anyway,
them. If there's anything you've learned as the listener, you can just poison them.
Now, yeah, but she did make one friend. Her name was Emma Pontier. Pontier.
Pontier.
You know, I'm not French. I'm so sorry. And seemed
Fancy
to be.
pants. I'll go with fancy pants.
Well, she seemed to be making the best of it because, like, 3 months in, dear Charles had to go to Paris on business, and she's sending him letters. She seems very fond of him in her letters, and she sent him a cake that she knew he'd like or whatever. Well, he eats the cake. And he becomes ill. He eats some of the cake.
What?
Not all of it. He eats some of the cake and he starts to become ill.
What do you mean?
Starts having terrible cramps and vomiting. So he throws the rest of the cake away and he assumes it's just like gone bad on its way to him. Maybe it just took a while to get to him.
I don't ship cakes often.
I mean,
but,
they used to ship children in the mail. Like you could, if you wanted your kid to go somewhere, they could put your kid in like their little backpack and take them to like, some other.
No, I didn't know
Yes,
that.
you did. Yeah. Okay, rabbit trail number whatever.
It was amazing.
Anyway, that was a thing. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you can't do that anymore, so please don't try. Yeah, he threw the rest of it away, but he was still feeling pretty rough when he returned home, and Marie had made him this like dinner to welcome him home, and he got even sicker. Okay, so he ended up dying like a month later after suffering for like that whole month with headaches, cramps, nausea. And the whole time like he was sick, she was giving him this broth. And the family was a bit suspicious and kept trying to get her like away from him in hopes that he would recover. Like they were like, we don't want you giving him this food or whatever. But she, she gave him this broth. So after he dies, she actually gets arrested 10 days later. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're saying the Marsh test is available at this point?
It's they're about to use that to,
It was part of the case against her?
Yes. So she's arrested 10 days after his death, and doctors are testing samples of the broth that she had been feeding him. Mm-hmm. And she's protesting that she's innocent, but they end up finding arsenic in the broth and later in his stomach. Okay.
There you have it.
At this time, a popular way to get rid of mice was to mix arsenic with flour and water to spread this paste where they would like eat it and die.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But now you can imagine like how if you had small children around, like crawling around, like how dangerous that would be.
Oh, my goodness.
You know what I mean? Anyway. Yeah, that was a thing. When they tested the paste that Marie said she had made for the rats, they only found flour and water.
Okay.
So the arsenic was going in the broth, not in the paste. Anyway.
Oh, I see. She never actually used it for...
Yeah. Now, she still claimed she was innocent throughout her trial, and she had quite a fan base. Many of them were men who said that they could save her by marrying her. I don't know how they would do that or how that's a thing. Like
this is like that Ted Bundy effect. Lots of women to say they think he's so great.
Okay, yeah, okay. Weird.
Yeah.
So she also wrote a best-selling memoir in which she defended herself.
Okay.
Like it was a bestseller in both France, and then when it was translated in like I think the UK and America. So
and the pages are laced with arsenic.
Who knows? Still, in like 1841, she's found guilty and was sentenced to 11 years. I'm guessing that she didn't get sentenced to death because, like, sure, they could prove that she had, like, motive and the means, but, like, no one actually saw her put it in there. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But they only gave her... Yeah, they gave her 11 years. She wasn't
executed.
Right. No, but she ended up catching tuberculosis and her health began to fail. So she was actually released in 1852 and she died 6 months later. So she didn't live too much longer anyway.
Gosh.
So.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Now, just to give myself a little break from the murders, I want to talk about an accidental poisoning involving.
Okay. Let's do this.
Involving arsenic.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the Bradford sweets poisoning.
Okay.
So this happened in 1858. In October, this was in the English city of Bradford, and
Bradford.
Bradford.
Okay.
Yeah. 2 boys had suddenly died, and several others were getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
A few days before this, there was a man who was setting up his regular sweet stall at Bradford's Green Market. His name's William Hardiker. And he would sell these like peppermint humbugs, which sounds fun. Oh, these weren't fun though. But this batch was a bit discolored, so he got it at a discount, you know. And
Okay.
yeah. And they figured that instead of putting in sugar, the person had put in this substance called daft. And this is where like sugar was pretty expensive. So like this is at a time where, you know, things weren't exactly regulated.
No.
Okay. You could
No.
just sort of substitute things all the time.
Of course.
And daft was a mixture that contained plaster of Paris, powdered limestone, sulfate of lime, or any other quote unquote harmless substance that could adulterate sweets in place of sugar, which was, like I said, expensive. Now, unfortunately, this order that was supposed to go into these humbugs was for like 12.
I just love you hearing that word every
Humbug.
time.
Humbug. They were supposed to get 12 pounds of this daft to make them with. But the assistant at the local chemist accidentally weighed out 12 pounds of arsenic trioxide.
Me.
Yes, from the container next to.
You're saying, but this
daft.
this sweetener substitute is called daft.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
It's-
an adjective in like the UK, like you daft such and such. They use that as an insult.
I don't know if it came from that or not.
Okay, I'm interested to know.
No, I don't know.
Let us know. Let us know in the comments on the socials,
Yeah, I don't know.
dear listener.
But, you know, and because Hardiker had purchased these sweets at a discount, he sold them at a discount. So they sold quite well. But like I said, instead of the daft that was
It's
in there,
arsenic.
it's arsenic. So by the time that a warning went out for it, over 200 people had fallen ill and 20 later died from arsenic poisoning. Now, because of this, though, this mistake did lead to the 1860 Adulteration of Food and Drink Bill, which sets out like ingredients that can be combined to make sweets.
Oh wow.
This also led to the UK Pharmacy Act of 1868, which introduced stringent regulations for chemists on the handling and selling of named poisons. Because, like, you know, the arsenic's just sitting out there, just sitting there.
Interesting.
yeah.
So this is like federal
And
regulation.
also, yeah, and a lot of times too, you'll find out like arsenic was not all that heavily controlled. Like sometimes, like there was paperwork behind who was buying it, and sometimes not. Like
Right.
it wasn't always written out.
Sure. There's no paper trail. There's no litigation. Yeah.
Yeah, not for a while, at least. And then finally, the 1874 abolition of sugar tax made sugar a much more affordable thing. So
I see.
there were some things that came out of that, not probably just from that, but part of that. And now
So
back to
crazy.
murder. Now
Muck
back
duck.
to murder.
Okay.
Murder.
R is the most menacing of sounds.
Yes. Now we're going to talk about this. Oh, okay. This woman,
You already?
it took me a minute to put this together because Mary Ann Cotton, another Mary, Mary Ann Cotton was a bit of a monster. Okay.
All right.
She was, and it's funny because she's born on October 31st in 1832.
Well.
So here we go.
Come on.
She was, you know, pretty well known as a Victorian Black Widow, but I'm going to tell you how we got there.
Okay.
So she was born in Low Moorsley, which is a small village in England. Her family ended up moving to a coal mining village, and her father ended up dying a few years later in the mines when she was like 10 years old.
As many men did in those
Yes.
days.
And she left home and became a nurse when she was 16, as you could do back then.
Wow.
And I think she later trained as a dressmaker as well. So she had a few things going on. I had to write my notes out in like an organized fashion because we'll just start with the first husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So husband number 1 was a miner named, and I mean miner as in mining things, not
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Not a 14-year-old.
Right. Named William Mowbray. Mowbray? Anyway, they had 8 to 9 children. I say 8 to 9 because not everything's registered back then, okay?
There could have been 9.
Yeah, we
Probably
don't know.
another one crawling around in there.
And honestly, there's so many children involved in this. Just a trigger warning, there's going to be some
Oh dear.
child death in this story, but I'm not going into detail. Okay. Yeah. So they had 8 to 9 children, and all but one died before their father did.
Wow.
From quote unquote gastric fever.
Oh no.
Which is basically code for maybe it's typhoid, maybe it's cholera. We don't really know. One of those gastro diseases that we're not really sure about. Now, the husband also died of this quote unquote fever in 1864, leaving her with a life insurance payout of about 35 pounds, which would be about 45 US dollars, which would be around 3,000 pounds or $4,000 today.
Okay.
Now, following his death, she left her last child, her remaining child, with her parents. Okay. Because she met husband number 2.
Okay.
She meets husband number 2.
Were the children poisoned? They were? Okay, you're going to get to that? Oh my God. Okay.
Okay. George Ward was an engineer that she met, I think in the infirmary. She was working as a nurse. She was caring for people.
Yeah.
And she married him in 1865. A little over a year later, he was also dead, leaving her with another insurance payout.
I see a pattern.
Husband number 3 was a recently widowed shipmaker named James Robinson.
What maker?
Ship.
Okay.
What did I say?
The way you said it, you landed really hard on the P.
Ship.
I shit my pants every day.
Well, you could be having arsenic poisoning.
I could be. Can't rule it out.
She was actually working for him first as a housemaid. Soon after getting the job, one of his children dies of gastric
fever. Ah.
So
the old GF.
Now she goes home for a bit because her mother has hepatitis or has been diagnosed with hepatitis. But after going home to care for her mother also dies. So she returns to Robinson with her remaining daughter that she had from her first marriage, the one that she had left with them.
Oh, right.
And that daughter also dies of gastric fever soon after. Then 2 more of Robinson's children die.
This is terrible.
Now,
Robinson is the second husband.
Third.
Sorry.
We're on number 3.
I'm behind.
I literally had to check my notes. We're on number 3. He's the ship maker.
Right.
Okay.
Boat maker.
Now, yeah, but this absolute broken crayon marries this woman and has 2 more kids with her.
Did you say broken crayon?
Yes, because that's what I feel like he amounts to brain-wise.
Oh my God.
Okay, I mean, all this is happening in your house and okay.
Okay.
Now, he has 2 more kids with her, and one of those kids dies in infancy. Now, Robinson finally begins to notice some things. He notices that money starts to go missing and that valuable items that are starting to disappear from the house. Turns out she was getting his older children to pawn them off for the money. Yeah.
Okay.
So she was also really badgering him to take out life insurance for himself and his other kids.
Okay.
His older kids, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally runs her off. Okay. Keeping their other child that they had together, with him. Probably for the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Husband number 4. Now, there wasn't a divorce from Robinson, but she still marries this other guy. It's her friend Margaret's brother, Frederick Cotton. Now, this is where she gets her last name. He had 2 children from his previous marriage. He was a widower. And Margaret, his sister, had been caring for her brother and his family until she dies of gastric fever.
This is like that bit with Fred Armisen in Parks and Rec. Straight to jail, except it's straight to death.
Frederick?
Believe it or not, straight to death.
Now, Frederick also dies around a year after the marriage. The bigamous marriage. Because she's also still married to Robinson.
Of course.
The shipmaker.
Sorry. You get me every time when you say that.
Now, as we've said before, there was a lack of sanitation. There's illnesses going around like cholera and typhoid. Mm-hmm. There's little record keeping on the cells of arsenic, going on. Children died a lot when they were young. All the time.
Yeah.
So there's all this going on. That's why I feel like she got away with this for so long. That
Certainly.
and people just not
Yeah.
really saying anything. But Frederick leaves behind his 2 children and one on the way because she's pregnant and some life insurance.
Okay.
Are we starting to see where inheritance powder comes in?
You know, I'm starting to put it together.
So about
I mean, I'm a little bit of a broken crayon, but I can still put it together.
about 6 to 7 months later, all of those children would be dead.
My God.
All of them. Now, after this, she lives with a man named Joseph Natras. Doesn't matter, he's going to be dead soon. Whom she likely had affairs with during her other marriages. He also dies after naming her in his will, of course.
Okay.
So, more
Wow.
inheritance there.
She's a serial killer.
Yeah. Finally, she gets with John Quick Manning, a tax officer, and she gets pregnant with his child. Okay. Now, she actually comes across this parish official named Thomas Riley, and he asks her, "Hey, are you guys going to get married?" Talking about her and this new guy, Quick Manning. And she mentions like, "Oh, well, he's actually married." And she couldn't marry anyway because of her remaining stepson being in the way. But then she says, "'Twon't matter, I won't be troubled long."
It's just all running together for her. She forgot who she was talking to.
So, and she tries to cover that statement up by saying like, "Oh, well, my family's had some bad luck. I mean, duh. I mean," but her stepson dies not long after she says this. Okay. Now, this parish officer brings up this conversation to officials. You know, he's like, "Hey, And now, if he hadn't, this probably would have just kept going.
For sure.
Okay.
She's unstoppable.
And so they decide to do an autopsy and check out the stomach contents. And they test using something called the Reinsch test. Reinsch, I cannot say this word to save my life. And they found enough arsenic to kill 5 men in his stomach.
My God. Okay.
Is it the Reinsch test?
That'd be Reinck.
Reinck?
Is it a German
But there's
name?
an S in there, and it makes my brain want to say.
That sounds like a German, like a Germanic or Eastern European
I'm going to look it up.
name.
I'm going to look it up. Yeah. Because every time I see it, I'm like,
He dies
the
soon
R
anyway. It
test.
doesn't matter.
So she's arrested and she gives birth to her final child, Margaret, who, by the way, lives to be like 81 because, you know, she's not near her mother. after this.
Interesting.
And she's given up for adoption, thankfully, for her own sake.
Good Lord.
And because her mother's a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And she is... the mother, who's been killing everybody, is found guilty after a 3-day trial. She was sentenced to hang, but when the time came to for the execution came, the noose wasn't long enough, so the execution had to actually be helped along.
Oh my God!
Basically, they had to strangle her with it in a way. So, yeah.
How could they not be good at this point?
Hey, look, okay. So, but the total deaths that I could find for her were like up to 21 people. She was only
Unreal.
she was only charged with the last one because that was the only one they really had evidence for. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
She was only charged with one murder.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now there's just a few other cases I'm just going to mention because I know we're running out of time.
Okay.
Probably already ran out of time, but I had a lot of fun with.
But this is pretty good stuff.
Look, this is arsenic is it's been used a lot.
It's the goat.
Okay.
It
It's
would
been
kill
around.
a goat
It's been
easily.
around. It killed a lot of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some similar cases to these, including Audrey Marie Hilly, another Marie. She killed her husband and attempted to kill her daughter. The only way they found out was a doctor noticed the lines on the fingernails. You ever seen that? Like I can't remember what they're called now, but a typical symptom of arsenic poisoning is when you have these lines going across your fingernail because
across
it's affecting
it like left and right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so once they saw that, they were like, hey, something's up. There's also a lady named Nanny Doss. She's also known as the Giggling Granny or the Lonely Hearts Killer because she answered a lot of Lonely Hearts ads and ended up killing these men. She killed multiple
Unreal.
husbands. She killed her mother, her sister, a mother-in-law, and her grandson. And while she was telling, she confessed to these, and she was like just giggling about it. Like she had no problem.
Dude, that is so twisted.
No problem with telling
man.
people. She thought it was great. Having a great old grand old time. But yeah. Also, there was a I have my book open actually to this. The Philadelphia poison ring. There was literally a poison ring where like these people would set women up with husbands and then like poison them for their inheritance and like take a cut of that. Like it was a whole like mob thing back in the day.
Crazy.
This is back in like when the depression was.
Right.
So like it's been used a lot to get basically inheritance or life insurance. Now these days you'd be really stupid to use arsenic because
certainly
it's easily
the forensics
you
available
can detect
nowadays.
It so easily.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
back in the day, it used to be in everything anyway. So you could easily say, "Oh well, he must have accidentally drank
just
some of
been
my
living in the
Fowlers.
world we live in."
Maybe he ate too many wafers. He ate too many arsenic wafers. He wanted lighter skin. I don't know.
I just can't imagine.
So like it was in everything. Maybe he licked the wallpaper. I don't know. Like you could blame it on anything.
He likes that color. I don't know.
You could blame it on anything, but there's so many cases you can look back on. There's even some stuff, and like you can look at fiction. It's been used in fiction a good bit. There's at least one story from Agatha Christie. She talks. I think it's the title has Paddington in it.
Does it?
Yeah. Oh. You know what? I'm looking it up because I can't leave that. I can't let it go. I bet it's in my notes on my phone, because why wouldn't it be?
This is being looked up in real time, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's see. Hang on. Let's look it up. Arsenic in Agatha Christie.
Shipmaker.
Arsenic Agatha Christie. Let's see.
Feels like the name of an emo band from the mid 2000s.
Let me click on this one because I've obviously read it before. This literally has like all the things that she used in her books, which is great. Cyanide, she used cyanide quite a bit. Mm-hmm. The 450 from Paddington. Yeah, I'm guessing that's what that one is. 450. Yeah, 450 from Paddington.
Okay.
Yeah, is a detective fiction novel where she, apparently arsenic is involved in that.
Wow.
So, yeah. But I'm going to put, books that I really love on poisons. I'm going to take pictures and just sort of put that on the Instagram. We have an Instagram, by the way.
Yes. Follow Poisoners_Almanac.
Yeah.
The podcast Instagram. You going to put that on the Instagram?
Yeah. I'm putting pictures of the different poisons we've gone over, some descriptions, things like that. So.
We'll probably share these on the other socials too. We got people asking about your books.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'll put
research.
on here for like things that I've used to look things up and everything. But yeah, that's I did my best to get through that in time, but I think I went
There's
over.
so much content. It's tough to get through that in a short amount of time.
I really had a hard time choosing the cases to go through because they're all fascinating. Like, and the forensics itself is fascinating. How the Marsh test came about, and how they're able to test for these things, because it's hard. It's hard work. There's a lot of people that have gone into really advancing medicine and forensics.
Absolutely.
So.
I mean, I'm glad to be living.
And then you
now.
have absolute crayons who don't know what's going on, and they get married to these women who people are just dropping like flies around.
Absolute crayons.
Anyway.
All right. So that's it for this episode on arsenic. Our next one is going to be about, have we decided? What are we looking at next?
I'm going to stick with the heavy metals, and we'll probably go through, I don't know, maybe might do lead, might do mercury. Who knows? We're going to have fun.
Stay tuned. Heavy metal inbound. Okay. Yep. That's it for this episode. Thank y'all for listening.